In these 3 videos, we are taking a close look at all aspects of shop floor safety. In Volume 1, we searched for reasons for unsafe behaviour and looked at some ways to avoid mistakes. In Volume 2, we are going to look at how and why safety rules and regulations get ignored, and then suggest ways to encourage everyone to remember safety first all the time. There is one phrase that crops up regularly at section meetings. We don't stick to the rules. But this is not the easiest of problems to deal with. Let's look at 2 typical examples of breaking the rules. Working directly underneath a crane. Not returning tools that are used by everyone. These are both examples of working outside the accepted norms of behaviour. They can cause problems for colleagues and in extreme cases lead to real dangers and increase the chance of accidents. Let's take a look now at the way general rules of social behaviour, both written and unwritten, are broken. First, there are bad habits which break the rules of etiquette. Sometimes you will see people behaving like this. Obviously, there are certain types of behavior which may be all right at home, but are certainly not acceptable in public and show a complete lack of consideration for others. When we're involved in any kind of group activity, there must be some form of rules to maintain order and efficiency and a degree of harmony. These standards apply to all areas of work. For example, a fundamental principle is that a conveyor belt or motor must be stopped before you attempt repairs. These 2 elements, etiquette and standards, come together in the workplace as safety regulations. Now let's consider why such safety regulations are often ignored. Of course, there are many possible reasons, depending on each individual's behaviour patterns and ideas, and the contents of the work involved. For example, if you ask a worker why he or she didn't replace some tools in the proper place after finishing with them, you might get any one of the following as a reply.
Oh, I was just too busy doing all kinds of things. You know what it's like, what with this and that and the other, and my boss won't let up, and the people I work with. It was just too much trouble. My shoulders are really stiff, and those tools are so heavy, I couldn't pick it up. It was so much easier to keep the tools near me. After all, I love my tools. Oh, yeah, I forgot about it completely. I wonder why. Oh, it's not only me, you know. Nobody else returns them, so why should I? It doesn't really matter, does it? I mean, who cares? I never even thought about it. In fact, I'm hopeless.
It's clear that everyone has their own set of ideas, their own sense of values. That's only human nature. Problems arise because of the conflict between what you want to do, in other words, your personal ideas and desires, and what you should do, In other words, proper self-control and awareness of working standards. With many people, the personal, individual side overrides the working standards. Various attitudes and emotional states, such as selfishness, personal feelings, and relationships with colleagues, can easily interfere with the proper sense of responsibility towards safety standards if there is a lack of self-control. Self-centered behavior can easily cause trouble for others. Now that's not very nice, is it? Chucking the can away as soon as you've finished? And think of the possible problems if there happened to be anything left in the can. You might even have to pay somebody else's laundry bill to get rid of the stains. This kind of action is rather like spitting straight up in the air. It doesn't matter whether you think this kind of behavior is acceptable. To others it is dirty, antisocial, and totally lacking in consideration for others. And not only that, it spoils the environment and can even create health problems. We've all heard the rule before, don't litter. Let's now look at some examples of personal feelings, starting with overconfidence. When working in high places, you don't bother to wear a safety harness. You try to get dust out of a fan while the motor is still working. You regularly drive well above the speed limit, relying on your brakes and quick reactions to keep you out of trouble. If you are overconfident, you believe that you are quite safe, despite what it might say in the regulations, because of previous experiences when you had no trouble at all. You feel so confident, you lose all sense of danger. The overconfident type will never stick to the rules. Next, exhaustion. When crossing the road, you can't be bothered to use a pedestrian crossing even when it's only a few yards away. You kick things along instead of carrying them. You don't check left and right at a crossing point in the workplace. Exhaustion can include both physical and mental tiredness. We slip into the temptation to rest for a moment and lose concentration. This temptation gets stronger the more tired we become. The result is to ignore the rules and regulations. Next, discomfort. You hate wearing a dust mask because you feel claustrophobic. You don't want to wear protective goggles because they give you a headache. You dislike using earplugs because they make you feel bad. Personal dislikes are a very natural part of everyone's behavior, and the more sensitive the person, the more this aspect of behavior appears. However, it is vital to remember that protective gear was designed for a specific safety reason, so simple dislike because of discomfort is not really a good reason for spurning it. A much better approach to this problem is to think carefully about ways to improve the design of the protective gear to make working more comfortable. The third and very common reason for ignoring regulations is connected with personal relationships, with colleagues, senior workers, and bosses. Let's look at a few of the behavior patterns connected with these relationships.
Look! Look! There he goes again! Jerk. Oh, God, he thinks he knows it all. Well, he might think it looks impressive, but I think he's overdoing it.
He fancies himself.
What a jerk. He sees himself as Superman.
There is often a temptation for confident people to ignore rules and play to the grandstand, to show off in front of colleagues. But the only person it's likely to impress is the doctor.
Hey, that's not the way you do it. It's like this. Not like that. Move over. Like this.
Oh, stop bothering me! Oh, shut up!
A personal dislike of bosses or supervisors can result in this kind of obstinate behaviour. In situations where workers feel the boss doesn't recognise or won't admit their real ability, then both obstinacy and playing to the grandstand tend to surface.
Oh, I don't know why I have to do this stupid kind of work. I got talent. I want to use my head, not just my hands. Oh.
Hey, what do you think you're doing? You don't do it with one hand. You're supposed to grip it tight with both hands. This is very dangerous. Now, try it again, properly. Go on. Go on. Go on, try it again.
Is this all right?
This is the spoiled child type of behaviour, feeling that anything is all right until you get warned or reprimanded or realise someone is watching you. Whenever a potentially dangerous situation or behaviour pattern is spotted, those in charge must set up working standards at once to resolve the problem, with the understanding that general safety must always take precedence over personal convenience. With increased automation, individuals may have ever-expanding areas of responsibility, get overloaded, and begin to ignore the working regulations. In such situations, we have to take a fresh look at all the standards we have set up and find ways to encourage everyone to stick to the rules. In other words, we need to develop a safety sense. It's quite obvious to anyone that working at a height is potentially dangerous and that safety harnesses should always be worn. However, there are some workers who apply a personal judgment based on past experience. For example, they will think, "Oh, this height is quite safe. I don't need a harness." The basic rule is there, but individuals are deciding whether to stick to it or not. And that makes nonsense of all the thought put into establishing the rule in the first place. People who always act on their own assessment of a situation, regardless of established procedures, are hardly likely to develop a proper safety sense. On the other hand, those who have sufficient self-control to override personal opinions, because they recognise the importance of everyone following the safety regulations, can be said to have a safety sense. This kind of attitude can only really develop if the rules and regulations are fully understood for what they are. Let's consider the main points for developing a sense of responsibility. A fundamental point is that the work regulations must be adhered to, in just the same way that we stick to the rules of etiquette. The right attitude taken by the bosses is vital in encouraging everyone to stick to the rules. If supervisors break the rules, then their workers will neither listen to them nor understand the importance of the rules. You can only set an example by doing exactly what the regulations say you should do. There's a widespread tendency to think that disobeying safety regulations is somehow a manifestation of manliness or individuality. But that's a very dangerous attitude to take. The problem is how this attitude can be controlled. The key to proper discipline is a combination of strictness and warmth. If you have to tell someone off, you must do it properly. This, of course, is easier said than done. There are some workers who respond well to reprimands, but there are others who react negatively and refuse to cooperate. But you can't apply the rules to different people with varying degrees of strictness without being accused of favoritism. All should be treated equally. To avoid problems, the best way to reprimand is in private, face to face, and not in front of everyone else. A reprimand should be considered as constructive advice, which is designed to protect all the workers from harm, and the workers need to realize this. And another point is that reprimands must never be used simply as a way of pushing your own authoritativeness, or as a way of making negative and totally unconstructive comments. Any person who leads others and instructs them about particular rules and regulations should have the ability and confidence to explain exactly why each regulation is needed and what results can be expected if they are not respected. The explanation is often just common sense. If you don't wear a safety helmet when the regulations say you should, then, even though you may not get killed or seriously injured when something hits you on the head, it can be the cause of small brain damage, recurring headaches, and so on. Nobody wants that, least of all the person whose head it is. Such explanations require knowledge, and also an intelligent and clear presentation which will appeal to everyone's sense of reason. Explanations are not just to do with stressing correct behavior in a particular situation, but also with the development of a positive attitude to work as a whole. Fundamentally, most people want to be part of a friendly team, want to be talked to, want to be accepted. Suggesting that someone is stupid because they break the rules is likely to begin a process of alienation, and that in turn can lead to more and more broken rules and a refusal to cooperate. This is a real danger. The person in charge has a great responsibility to maintain harmony in the group. There are two very useful techniques for maintaining the proper level of motivation to stick to the rules and regulations. The first, and perhaps most effective method of all, is to hold proper workplace meetings, which are designed to focus on policies and safety standards, and also increase everybody's awareness and general self-discipline. Let's take a look at 10 checkpoints for the leaders of meetings. The first 3 points concern the knowledge and ability of the leader himself. He should have a sensitive awareness of the character of every member of his team, he should lead positively, and he should also be able to do the work himself, so that he can fully understand all the problems. Leaders of meetings can promote enthusiasm by encouraging everyone's active participation and the expression of frank opinions, by setting up small discussion and study groups to deal with particular problems, and by ensuring that decision-making is undertaken by the group as a whole. The development of everyone's self-control can be achieved by fostering consideration for others, heightening everyone's self-respect and pride in the work they do, and establishing a proper concern for personal safety. This can be done by demonstrating that injuries benefit no one. We now have to consider another major problem. These meetings may work very well and lead to lots of practical improvements. But if the decisions taken are subsequently disregarded, then the meetings have to be regarded as ineffective. What is needed are a few little daily reminders of safety. How about this as a dynamic and even fun way to start the day's work and get the adrenaline flowing? You can invent your own expressions such as, "Our safety drive begins today. Let's commit ourselves to 0 accidents." And you can even add some humor. This one is rather like a football huddle. Everyone stands in a circle and chants out a short safety slogan such as "Safety first, safety first. Go for it, go for it." This one involves inviting individuals or groups to declare their ideas on safety in front of everyone else. If it seems appropriate, everyone might like to repeat these ideas together. These 3 techniques may or may not suit your own situation, but the point is straightforward enough: to remind everyone of the importance of safety first. The most effective way is, of course, to develop your own techniques. The second method for developing the required attitude of mind is individual instruction on a person-to-person basis. We all tend to have our own ideas about how to work, and, as we've seen, that means there might be 100 different reasons for breaking the established rules. It's up to the instructor to begin by attempting to grasp each worker's personality traits in order to find out just why he or she behaves in the way they do. For example, do they have the bad habit of not using a mask because the mask makes it difficult to work, or are they just overconfident? Do they kick things along instead of carrying them because they are tired or just plain lazy? When they show off by removing dust from moving equipment, are they doing it because they have no respect for their supervisor or because they actually have no sense of danger? You have to understand individuals before you can help them to correct their bad habits. In other words, you have to tailor your speech to your audience. Person-to-person instruction is very similar to the relationship between a doctor and his patient. The doctor must tell the truth in the most effective way he can. An outright lie could easily lead to a patient taking the wrong medicine and dying as a result. Neither the doctor nor the patient wants that to happen. The secret is to listen patiently and let the person explain in their own words why they broke the regulations, even if you have to listen to an argument that has not really been thought out properly. What tends to happen is that people begin to reflect more carefully about the situation as they talk. Once it becomes apparent that this is happening, you can begin to explain the situation from your point of view. You will, of course, have to reprimand as necessary, give appropriate advice, and as far as possible stimulate the individual's pride. This is the first step in developing the right attitude of mind towards safety regulations. Let's just check the main points for personal instruction. Be a good listener. Encourage personal reflection. Explain why. Stimulate pride. Be strict, but advise in a constructive manner. The most important result of all these activities is that everyone not only sticks to the rules, but understands exactly why they are important. Of course, it's possible simply to tell everyone to keep to the rules and leave it at that. But that would only work in an ideal world. Daily workplace reality is always different. We hope you have found a few useful hints here, and that sooner rather than later, everybody at your workplace wants to stick to the rules and actually does stick to them.